Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Uganda Political Forum, a forum where we discuss issues, challenges that are affecting our mother country, Uganda. Today we have a fresh topic, and I have a panel to join me discuss. We are discussing human rights in Uganda. Such a broad topic, but which I'll try as much as possible to try and bring it down. To help me discuss tonight, we have, starting on my left, we have a visitor, Jeff, coming all the way to come onto this forum. Welcome, say hello to the viewers.
Hello, viewers.
Yes, and we have our normal face today. This is Robert here.
Hello, viewers.
And on my right, I have, of course, Moses Lutu Mukasa.
Good evening, viewers.
And finally, Mr. Tony Dizala, who is here to help us discuss this very sensitive and yet fundamental issue. Now, members of the forum, we are looking at human rights in Uganda, and in my hands here I have a report that was generated by Amnesty International. And just to read a paragraph to you, it says, Uganda has an obligation under international human rights law, and specifically as a state party to the United Nations International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, to respect the rights of freedom of peaceful assembly and freedom of expression. The paragraph goes on and on. But just to start from that last line, Uganda being party to these bodies, it has to respect the rights of freedom and peaceful assembly of, and the freedom of expression of the Ugandans. I'll start with you, Moses. Being party to the human rights laws, specifically the party to UN International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, are we seeing the Ugandan government practicing the respect of rights to freedom and peaceful assembly?
Oh yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. There is a mix-up of issues because sometimes, in most cases, we refer to riots as demonstrations.
Yep.
There is no clear boundary between what a riot is and what a demonstration is.
Exactly.
Uganda restricts demonstrations because they are even enshrined in our constitution. Apart from this charter, which we signed, in the Constitutional Republic of Uganda, people are allowed to freely demonstrate. But there are steps that are supposed to be followed. There are some legal steps and procedure that is always being followed by people who demonstrate.
Yeah.
And I believe, and we have already seen this, that people do come, demonstrate, show their feelings, and the government responds. Actually, this is what has been happening.
Exactly.
But what has been happening at the same time is that there are some people who are lawful elements within the society, sometimes within leadership of some organizations, who come out open to riot.
Yep.
There is no country on planet Earth that allows rioting and call it freedom, or that anybody has got a right to riot and destroy property and do all that stuff. That's when the state has to come in and do the needful.
Yep.
That's what has been happening in Uganda. In fact, Uganda is one of the few countries in Africa where demonstrations are given a priority. We even give them policemen to escort them, we close some roads and allow them to go, because it must be done in an organized way. So I believe demonstrations are being allowed to operate in Uganda, and they do so.
Okay, that's a bit interesting and very, very good to start with. I mean, with your very strong point saying Uganda respects demonstrations, and you've given all your support onto this. But bringing Tony here is we've seen surely demonstrations taking place in Uganda, and we have seen the police exactly coming in to aggressively stop these demonstrations. Some of the demonstrations, or the people in the demonstrations...
Mr. Chairman, demonstrations or riots?
No, I'm starting with demonstrations, not to go into riots. But we have seen demonstrations being stopped because the riot is aggressive.
But like which demonstration?
Not exactly. When, for example, people say we're going to walk on Kampala Road to go to work, I don't think that's a riot.
Yes, it was.
Is that a riot?
Yes.
Okay, just to bring in my friend Tony here, what is your view about what Moses has said as far as Uganda is concerned?
I don't want to respond to Moses per se. I just look at the situation in Uganda and talk about human rights.
Yeah.
It's a very controversial topic of discussion.
Exactly.
What are the rights? What's the beginning of somebody's rights, and what's the end of somebody's rights that can surpass community's right? Yeah. If I have my right, will I exercise it at the expense of the community? If there is that conflict between the two, if I have a right to demonstrate, can I demonstrate at the cost of the society? So there should be some demarcation between that. However, rights are there, enshrined in the Constitution, they're there. But again, we need to have what we have is the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And the gatekeepers we have in Uganda is the police. And the police are supposed to be there to monitor the demonstrations that are going on, to protect people, to give guidelines how they are going to be done. But now what do we have? We have the police trained and equipped, knowing the people's rights. How is the police trained? Are they really in good position to know the rights of their rights first of all as policemen?
Yeah.
And the rights of the people they are supposed to protect.
Yeah.
So the issue here is knowledge, ability, capacity, understanding. So if these are not very clear, we find that we're talking about human rights, we don't know. People don't know where does it begin from. If someone to demonstrate or right, be arrested, would that be abusing his right? Or that would be a right of the policeman to arrest somebody who is rioting.
Exactly.
So it's not spelled out clear. People don't understand the issue between rioting,
demonstrations and responsibilities.
And all that,
yeah, like you're saying. Thanks very much. And you've just hinted on a very serious issue here when you refer to the gatekeepers as the police. You're saying the police should be knowledgeable and have the capacity, the ability, and to understand what exactly they are doing. Yeah. And I'm bringing in Robert. We've seen demonstrations turn into riots in Uganda. And we've seen the police's involvement here at a very wide range. Tony is raising the question, does the police have the knowledge, the ability, the capacity to understand people's rights?
First of all, before I go to the issue of police, human rights in a community, in a society for Uganda, the issue here, somebody has to know his rights or her rights. Where does it start from? Where does it end? And how does somebody have to know this? There must be sensitization of the community. And I want to tell you that if you know very well, our community in Uganda, they lack a lot of knowledge. Just a policeman dressed in his uniform to stop you around, you will panic with a lot of words to answer. He's asking you a straight thing. You start touching your wallet to give him money. You know, such information is lacking in the community. And when it comes to the institution like the police to handle people who are demonstrating, and I would say to a certain extent, they are not really doing enough. When it's demonstration, why it turns out to be a riot? Because of mishandling it. You know, if people say we are going to demonstrate and there's resistance from police, you know, it turns out to be a riot. You know, but if police had a way of handling demonstrators, how do we handle these people? I mean, it wouldn't turn out to be a riot. If Besige is walking on the street, how do we prevent this to turn out to be a riot? Other than confronting Besige is coming and you are going head on with him. How do we prevent this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are two good questions which are going to be directed somewhere. But before I go to that person, I would like to bring in my friend Jeff. Jeff, Robert is raising an issue of sensitization of the community. Do you have the same feeling that Ugandans back home lack sensitization about what their rights are? And he has quoted an example: if a policeman comes in front of you, you might even start panicking and breaking out. Do you think we are lacking sensitization of our rights in Uganda?
Yeah, when you look very closely, I agree partly with him and I agree partly with him as well.
Yeah, true. Just a little bit loud. Yeah.
But what I'm seeing is because of the economic situation in Uganda and the level of education people have got, a lot of people misinterpret a lot of things and they look at things differently. Yep. So it's how do you speak the same thing to the same person?
Exactly.
And you speak it differently to another person.
Yep.
So there's a lot of confusion that comes, and once you put people together, who have different views.
You expect that confusion.
Exactly.
Always to come. Good. And I'm going to bring in Moses here very, very quickly. Robert has come up with some good points here. He says, one, the police is not doing enough. And two, he's saying that the police is handling demonstrations poorly, and as a consequence, the demonstrations turn out to be riots. So my question back to you is the police the best gatekeeper to promote human rights in Uganda at present?
As we speak now, yes, they are. Because if you don't bring the police, then that means military.
Yeah.
Military police are far better than in quashing riots than the police. Because when you see government deploying a military policeman, then you realize that your democracy has been stopped somehow.
Yep.
If you see a military policeman coming to arrest you, you should realize that your rights are somehow limited. Oh, stop, in one or another.
Exactly.
But, Mr. Chairman, let's go back to what he has been saying.
Yep.
A person like Kanobes,
yeah,
he goes to the police. We are going to demonstrate because Mabila is going to be taken out.
True.
They sit with the policemen. They discuss the channels and the rules that are supposed to be taken.
To follow, yep.
On the way, instead of going to route A, which was agreed upon, they decided to go to route B, simply to provoke.
Exactly.
Simply to provoke.
Yeah.
In the process, people start burning tires, looting people's property. What do you expect the government to do? Because government is not a priest. It's not a synagogue.
Yeah.
It must come in.
Exactly.
That's what the problem comes. That's where the problem comes in. What are the intentions? We have seen nurses, we have seen teachers, we have seen all other groups coming to demonstrate, and they have been doing it peacefully. But why is it one group of people, one section of people, that whenever it comes out, the demonstration turns into rioting? The police comes out and say that we have heard rumors that you are planning to have a riot in Nakasero, a demonstration in Nakasero. It's not allowed. Come and talk to the police. Don't do it. We are going. And the other group says, no, we are going to come. Come, shine or rain. Yes, we shall be there. So they start. What do you expect government to do? And whenever you see government deploying anti-riot police, then you should know that this is not going to be a demonstration. When they deploy anti-riot policemen, you should realize that yours is not a demonstration. When it is a demonstration, the traffic policemen are supposed to be there to direct the garden and these band people, which keeps on music to entertain you and to make you move on. But whenever you don't see those people and you see riot police, then you realize tear gas cannons and all those, you realize that this is not a demonstration. So we have laws which we are supposed to follow, and it's the duty of the government to enforce laws.
Exactly. Now, that's a very good point. Thanks very much, Moses. But I'm bringing
Can I build on that?
If are you building on? I just wanted to challenge you on what you're saying.
No. I just want to
okay, build on, yeah.
To enlarge. If we restrict ourselves to riots in Kampala, we are limited. That's part of human rights. Human rights is very big.
It's massive. We just
and we are saying that one reason why people maybe come up and demonstrate is because their rights are not being met.
True.
Okay? So what are these rights? We need to find out the rights that people are demonstrating for, leave alone rioting. Rioting is a demonstration went out of control, which goes out of control, it becomes the rioting. But demonstrations themselves, we are seeing so many demonstrations of late taking place in Kampala. So what's the issue? What are we talking about here? What rights are we talking about?
Now that's what I was heading to, as you preempted it. But looking at it from that angle, what are some of the rights that you think are being violated or abused in Uganda at the moment?
If you look at the indicators of government, GNP, you say most of Ugandans are living in below poverty. Okay, and that means the basic needs are the human rights like shelter, housing, health, food, and education. So how much of this is being met by all Ugandans? You find that if you talk of poverty, poverty is biting and biting hard. In some parts, some people don't have food to eat. But this is not about the government per se. It is about people knowing their rights. If we talk of, let's say, let's put it, do Ugandans know what their role is, what government is supposed to do for them, and what they are supposed to do for government? Most people know what they are supposed to do is to vote somebody, and that's it. There is no accountability, there is no feedback, there is no outreach. Tell people, we are doing this for you, and you are supposed to respond to this. There is no that coordination between the so-called leaders and the led. Because we need to have, if we are talking about human rights, we are talking about people knowing their reason of existence and knowing who is supposed to protect it.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe the police, sometimes it may be the constitution, sometimes the parliament which passes the law, sometimes we have NGOs which come up. The civil society must be very strong. The government, the legislature, the parliament, the executive, all these play a role in protection of human rights. But what is very important is first of all people know their rights.
Exactly.
Do Ugandans know their rights?
Exactly, that's a good question. Ugandans know their rights. Yeah, I mean, we started with Robert and told us about the sensitization. I think that's the same kind of point that you're raising. But we're going to a little bit divert and focus on some specifications where we are seeing rights being abused. And I'm coming into Robert. We've seen a lot of unlawful killings in Uganda. We've seen a lot of torture. And we've seen a lot of ill treatment in the community, and not only in Kampala, but I'm talking about the whole country. We've seen this in Karamoja, we've seen this in Gulu, and so many others. Now, people have a right to live. So is the government of Uganda, for example, and I'm going to get stuck on the government, is the government of Uganda putting in place credible investigations to apprehend those who have committed such sins, or to protect the rights of people?
Yeah, yes, some of these institutions are there. There is a human rights commission. Yeah. And this cannot really perform without the executive, as my friend Tony said, without the parliament, without the judiciary. It's there to fight for people's human rights. But where it's abused, mainly is when there are political demonstrations. That's a direct translation where you see human rights, and when you talk of human rights, it translates directly to political demonstrations. That's where most abuse is
open. That's
open. Yes,
it is visible.
Yes,
but there is a lot of abuse which goes on in a matter of poverty.
Exactly. But when you talk of human rights, directly, the direct one is in political. You know, in political. That's where the army comes in, the police comes in to stop this. And in the course of doing this, they abuse the rights of those who are trying to demonstrate or to show whatever grievances they have. You know. And then the body I'm talking about, the human rights body in Uganda, is supposed to follow up this. If the government has really done a wrong thing, it's supposed to pin it, you know, and there must be compensations. You know.
Yeah. Let me come in. I know it's itching you to come in, but Moses, his point is, if human rights have been abused, and the government has got to know about that, the government should put in place credible investigation, but also people who have been involved in the abuse of rights of Ugandans should be punished. Is the government of Uganda punishing those people, especially the police?
Sincerely speaking, as we speak now, within the region, Uganda's government has got the most strict code of conduct as far as security and all the organisms are concerned. For instance, in police, whenever there is a demonstration, we have seen people, those politicians, stoning policemen, killing them.
That's a riot now, we clarify.
Because, in fact, as we speak, we have not seen demonstrations in politics in Uganda. We have not seen any demonstration. They have not been there.
Because they're being stopped.
Because they don't attempt to hold demonstrations. For them, they don't attempt at all. I was the last person to conduct a demonstration in Uganda. That was in 2004, when the judiciary has ruled that movement was created illegally. We had a demonstration in 2004. We went through all the channels. We notified the police. In writing, they wrote us that you are allowed to demonstrate. You will take this and this and these channels as well as you are moving in Kampala. That was the last demonstration I've been to. So what we are seeing here is not demonstrations. Demonstrations are quite procedures. And recently, I heard the current chairman of the Human Rights Commission telling the opposition that what we call a demonstration is not what you are doing. Because a demonstration must consider others. You have a right to sleep, but you don't sleep in my bed.
Mr. President, the topic shouldn't go on demonstration. It is the human rights.
But
just
clarify.
You have talked about politics. You have talked about politics. You have talked about political demonstration.
Within the political demonstration,
I have seen
human rights are abused.
For example, our government was started by a rebellion. We have killed so many, executed so many government soldiers who have indulged themselves in killing or abusing human rights of the people of Uganda. That's on record. We have killed many soldiers, and today it's more difficult to find a soldier killing a human being like a civilian than a civilian killing another civilian. Today, where the police should put the emphasis is these mob justices. They are conducted by the population. Actually, the population. For instance, someone is driving a car, he knocks down someone, the commuter around comes up and grabs you up and runs someone within minutes. That's abusing human rights. It's being done by the population. And the opposition, actually. The opposition, they come out clearly, they sit up and they say, we are going to kill the DPC of such and such a police station. And while they are conducting a demonstration, they kill someone. So, has the government got, because when you apprehend them, they call it a political persecution. You put someone, for instance, as we speak, within the last 2 months, a DPC was turned down during one of the riots. People were arrested, and now they are saying that this is political persecution. Whereas everybody saw what was happening. You see, that's the problem in Uganda. And in fact, the government has, in fact, if we don't give credit where it's due, it demoralizes the government and leaves things the way they are. When we took over power in 1986, we issued a commission of inquiry into the violations of human rights in Uganda. My younger brother, our last book, was killed by VVCU. I have a case with Human Rights Commission. Government has compensated people, billions and billions have been lost through compensation. And whenever the case is being acted upon by the human rights, government has to punish the person who is responsible for abusing rights of human rights.
Okay. Yeah, now this is interesting when it comes to politics versus others, and that's why Tony is going to come in before I go to Jeff. But Tony, yeah, it's becoming very interesting because what exactly is happening? Are we seeing, because when you talked about the gatekeepers and you brought about police, and you say it has to be knowledgeable, it has the capacity and understanding, are there ways that you think the police has not showed that they do understand human rights, that they do have the capacity to uphold people's rights in Uganda? Are there some examples that you can give about the Ugandan police?
No, I don't just. There are obvious examples where you see police has mishandled demonstrators. Some of the riots, wait. You call them riots. Some of the riots, it's like in Australia here, if somebody enters your house to steal and you shoot him, you were shot, you will be sentenced for manslaughter or for killing. So if somebody is rioting, that doesn't mean that that person doesn't have a right. Okay? If people are rioting on the street, how do you handle them? Okay, they have broken the law, but fire does not quench fire.
No.
Okay? What we are saying is, if people, police now, by now they know, because of the political temperature in the country, that people are bound to be emotional and riot. So are they prepared to handle such big numbers of people are rioting? What are they doing? We have cases where the good example is this MP who was manhandled, where they pressed and all that. That has happened. She's not an MP, whatever she is, but she's one of the common people in the very person we are talking about. So what do we see here? Do we see police doing the right thing? It was doing the right thing to arrest her, but were they taking the right procedure? So if the president came out, or even the police commander came out and said, how she went about the business was wrong, that means that particular police officer was not equipped, prepared to handle with riots.
Exactly.
So that also now percolates down toward the police force. We have seen so many places where policemen opened like blades rioters. And now we are seeing people, white people, all from Western, coming in to direct police to help them during riots. How best can they handle rioting? Okay? So that means there is a problem here of capacity within the police to handle that.
Okay.
But that's just part of. We don't want. I don't want to restrict myself on rioting and demonstration.
No. It's beyond that, and that's
Yeah.
my next question to Jeff. It's human rights is not all about demonstrations and rioting. It's also about freedoms. For example, we've seen freedom of the press being abused in Uganda. Do you think? Do you have an example of how the press has been abused and freedom of expression?
There's a situation with one of the red newspapers, which was also closed down.
Yeah, loud a bit. Yeah.
Now that was another issue because I'm thinking the information didn't come out properly.
Yeah.
What they were trying to say is that they actually expressed certain issues in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And somebody out there was not happy.
Yep, exactly.
So closing down the offices,
That's abuse of rights.
that's abuse of rights again.
And there was a radio station that was closed for nearly 1 year.
Yeah.
I think the Uganda thing.
Exactly. So I mean, when it comes to the press, they are being told that you're not supposed to say certain things, and
Yes.
you're
In the
supposed
media.
to restrict yourself to, and then you like the biggest one is New Vision.
Yeah.
Well, they try and put it out, but then again, there's a lot of influence from the government.
The government on what they should print and what they should not
print.
print.
Really?
Yeah, that's an opinion from one of our members, and you look shocked. What's the shock here before I bring in
one
Robert?
of our complaints as government is New Vision is one of the papers that have been misleading and writing negative on government. Whether this is a government paper. There have been various complaints between government and New Vision.
Yeah, I would disagree with that personally because
No, I don't
the
disagree
government,
with you.
the whole panel disagree with that. Because the government.
You have the right to disagree.
Let me update you. Let me update you a little bit on this. The New Vision is a government paper. The president actually appoints the man who runs the vision. He has appointed Pike before and so on. And I've seen personally so many headings changing just because the government is not happy about what's going to come up.
But why does the government come down with it totally? Because President's being appointed the head of, he's the one who appoints the Chief Justice.
Yep.
But we have lost so many cases within the court. Does that mean that because he appoints the Chief Justice, therefore all the cases that government takes to court must be decided in the federal government?
Okay.
The procedure don't do things.
Yeah.
And by the way, you talked about closing some
Radio stations
radio
and
stations.
newspapers too.
Because there are restrictions here in Australia. You can't operate a radio station and then you say, we want Bin Laden to come here and take over.
Is that what happened in Uganda?
Exactly. Melbourne Radio, they have been, because there is a guideline which FM station should follow. If you use your radio station to incite violence, to tell people that you go against this one, then government must come in. You know what happened in Rwanda? A radio station was used in Yenzi. They told them, you go to this place, get punks and start slaughtering people. We don't want to see that in our country. That's the duty of the government to restrict. Yes, because before they issue with a license to operate, there are some restrictions which you have to follow.
Yeah, I'll jump to Tony. Tony, Moses is emphasizing that it's the duty of the government to restrict. If the government thinks that an activity is going to incite violence, the government will come in and restrict that violence. But is that appropriate? Is the way the government is doing it, is it appropriate? Isn't it using a big stick to wipe off a fly?
Of course, we use big sticks to wipe out the...
No, we know. If you are talking of freedom, if you are talking of freedom of expression, you want to really to uphold the government for now. Get me this clear. That we have now how many radio stations?
Very many. Very many. Yeah.
Okay. I think the year before last elections, Ugandans will call in and discuss all issues.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was a way of building people's capacity to understand that there are national issues that we can debate. People are giving their opinion, and that's really a very good indicator. In East and Central Africa, there is no such country with such a very wide range of radio and television. Okay, but what happens is that it's the hand that feeds you, the hand that is burning. Whereas the radio, they are helping the Ugandans to come up and express their opinions. At one time, I don't want to say government, the ruling party realized that although it's good to mobilize, it can also be disadvantage to mobilize. So it has to balance it in a way. Okay, but that's politics. That's politics. But when you talk about human rights, it's the freedom of expression. Can Ugandans talk freely?
Exactly.
Exactly. Through the papers, can they express their opinions on the paper? We recently, Onyango Bo made some comment. There was a lot of discussion between Onyango Bo and the president of Uganda in the new vision about issues of continuing after 75 years. And the president is quoted in the newspaper saying the monitor already is opposing government policies. That is on record. But do we have the readership? Do we have Ugandans reading the newspapers? How many people read?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good one. Did you want to jump in? No. Yeah, but I will come into Robert. I think and again we are focusing that freedom of expression. You should be having something surely to talk about it. Members have cited a few instances where freedom of expression and freedom of the press especially has been abused. I was reading somewhere where they say the regulation of Interception of Communication Act 2010 became law in September, that's 2011, and it gives the government far-reaching discretion in surveillance and interception of all forms of communication. Surveillance and interception of all forms of communication. That takes us back to
the Big Brother,
to Idi Amin regime, because Idi Amin, it takes us back because Idi Amin had exactly this. The spy network system for Idi Amin was exactly this. Are we seeing the same being done in Uganda at present? Why should people say freedom of expression be limited?
That still takes us back to sensitization and more training for police on how to handle issues when they come around. The human rights body in Uganda has a big duty to do this, to sensitize. But as it does that, it works hand in hand with the police, with the parliament, because when they pass out something, it has to be approved by parliament and the law. And the law. And why human rights are abused in demonstrations is because police is not well equipped also. Well equipped doesn't mean to have tear gas
or chibokos.
No. There are other forms of handling this to prevent it to turn out to be violence. And when you look at police and the army, you know, police is supposed to be police. But if it gives you, it gives you really a different picture. If I'm an army man and I'm appointed to head police, I will transform my ideas of military or army training into police. You know, yet police does a different training to deal with the civilians. Army does a different thing on order.
Order.
Yes.
Exactly.
But this, of recent, he was quoted, the head of police, what's his name? Kaihura. When he was in Ushen, that police has to act now like an army.
Exactly.
So you are seeing a transformation of police into army. And to me, I think these institutions, they really have different training. Army, police is police.
That's good. Robert, if I can stop you there, I'll bring in Tony. Did you want, just before you come in, I forget. Moses, police is supposed to keep law and order. The army is supposed to protect the government and so on. Now, Robert's point is that we are seeing the Ugandan police being dressed in military uniforms. Otherwise, what he's saying that the leaders of the Ugandan police are actually military men. So how are military men going to play the role of the police? And is this why we are seeing human rights being abused in Uganda?
Because you know what? Sometimes some issues are supposed to be went into deeply to understand them and appreciate them.
Exactly.
The role of the police is to enforce law and order.
Exactly.
You cannot enforce law and order which is not there.
Yeah.
The role of the army is to protect the sovereignty of the people of Uganda.
Exactly.
It's intertwined.
Yeah.
And an army man can lead a transport company, he can lead a school, he can lead a ministry.
Yeah.
Why not a police force?
Yeah.
You have seen military men being ministers and
Yeah.
performing well.
Yeah.
Because what's the nature of these army men? They were civilians who woke up from their houses to go and fight for the freedom of that country.
Yeah.
Kaibura is a lawyer, by the way.
Yeah.
He's a qualified lawyer, a professional lawyer. He knows what he's doing. And being an army man has not stopped him from being criticized or even taken to court in case he does something wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't see anything wrong with being a military man. And in fact, being a military man in the police has helped a lot because, you know, before, military people were interfering into police work, and the people, the IGP, because he was a civilian, he was fearing to handle those military men. But under Kaibura's regime, Lieutenant General Kaibura, no military, no army man can come and do police work when he's there. He just handle it because he's already in the army and in the police. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Do you see anything wrong with that? No, Tony, do you see anything?
It's not wrong or right.
Yeah.
I'm not judging here.
Yeah.
But we are talking about separation of duties.
Are you okay? You're responding to that.
We are
Because I was
talking
going
about
to ask
separation
you.
of duties.
Yeah.
The army that is very, as Moses have said, and these are different institutions. They have different line of command and different duties.
Exactly.
Okay. For me, political appointment of some to lead the police, even if it's an army man, may not be a problem. Because as Moses said, an army man can be appointed to be a minister, but that's a political appointment. It's not professional. We are talking about police, be professional police, which must be entrenched within the ECRON, the power, the understanding of the police duties and responsibilities. This is what is lacking. Kaibura has never been trained as a policeman.
Has he
never.
Because the
has he been trained as a policeman?
I'm not aware of that one.
Okay.
Yes, never.
Yeah.
What I can say, their qualification is of a person who is supposed to be IGP. And Kaibura
And what?
has all of them.
No.
Okay, don't continue.
One of the qualifications for you to be, you must be a trained policeman. He has never gone to any police training.
No.
You know very well police training and army training are different.
Very different.
Me, I have no personal take with the Kaibura because he's a policeman, he's an army man, qualified, and he's one of the officers. But I'm saying the problem here, we're having police, these two being merged together, there's a problem there. If police and the army, there is no demarcation between the two, we see abuse of human rights coming in. Because as you said, an army man talks of order. A policeman talks of order, but with respect of money. The training is different.
Yeah.
Recently we had a problem. There was an issue, a conundrum in Malawi, whereby the president died abruptly. The professionalism that was shown was the army man was told to take over. He said, no, I protect rights and property, sovereignty of the country. That's not my role. That's the role for the politicians. He stepped aside. Can we have such a situation in Uganda? Can we have this demarcation, separation of powers? My issue is the separation of powers, duties and constitution of duties. That's where the problem. Now, if you put that aside, I don't want to go that much. If we are talking about human rights in Uganda, how are we going to protect them? One way of protecting the human rights is that realizing that the right. Do we have in primary, secondary, and high school human rights being taught as a curriculum? That people can know their rights? It's not there.
No, it is there.
Good.
It is
If
there.
it is there,
I'll
then that's
confirm,
the beginning.
yeah.
That's the beginning of people know their rights. Because they're not going to say they're abusing my right, which right? Because in the process of training and knowing, you know that your rights have a limit. You don't just say because they have a right to walk on the street, you just walk on the street and they can knock you. So people should know their rights, that their rights, it's a give and take.
They have limitations.
They have limitations.
Of course, they come with
It
responsibilities.
comes with responsibilities. But we have that. Most of people in Uganda, they don't know that they have the rights. They have never come out. But
I think all that you are explaining is really directly to sensitizing and educating the community about their rights. So when it's not done, it's forcing the institution of police to turn out to be something else, because it's fighting the population which is not aware of which rights do I have and where do I end and start? So instead of sensitizing the community, you are fighting it down with resistance.
Yeah.
You know, this is where the problem is.
Yes, Mosaic, you want to chip in here?
The issue of sensitization is a process.
Of course.
It can't be done in
one day.
We can't say that
Overnight.
this year we're going to do.
But it has to start.
It has started.
It has to
It has
start.
started. It has been there. I have been a councillor. I know what has been happening.
Yeah.
The Danida government has been giving funds and they have been following those funds.
Exactly.
It can't be done in one day. It has a cost. A government which does not have drugs sufficient enough to cover for the population, you can't talk of sensitizing the people in one night. It can't happen. It's a process going on, ongoing.
Yeah.
But the other problem, when we talk of democracy is the way how one relates with the other. How do these political leaders behave? For them, their work is to make sure that they destroy.
It's about priority. If that was a priority, it can work. It can be worked out.
Under your house,
You
under your roof.
are mentioning about hospitals not having drugs, and why should you leave that and jump to sensitizing?
I'm trying to show you.
Is that what you are trying to say?
No,
To show you
yeah.
a variety of priorities.
Yes.
We have so many. We have so many needs.
But we have seen so many leaving priority of the hospital, and you go to another thing. We have seen that.
That's what I'm saying. A variety of priorities. You can jump from one to another because you have many and you have limited resources to cut off them at the same time. That's the
Okay,
issue.
members, just one point here. Just a brief one.
No, what we are saying is that we may here disagree among ourselves, but there are some facts which are there.
Yeah.
The international human rights comes out with the report.
Yeah. Which I
Saying
have
that
copy here.
Uganda human rights record is bad
Yeah.
compared to previous years.
By the way,
Yeah.
on that one, Mr. Chairman, I want
Yeah.
to react strongly.
That what? That
I came here in 2010.
it's wrong?
2010, I came in Australia. 2 months later, I formed a group of Amnesty International in Ashfield. When they saw that I was a black person, they come here. I responded. They said, we need money to help the people of Uganda, Ethiopia, Somalia. They named to some countries that these countries, they need to change governments because human rights are being abused. I said, They said, where are you coming from? I said, South Africa. So they started telling me what was happening in Uganda. And when I asked one of them, how would you get this information? The man was frank enough to tell me that leaders of the opposition give us this information. I said, how stupid you are.
Yeah.
Do you expect people from the opposition to give you? These people, they don't go to the ground. Their reports, they're like Robert. They consider what is happening to the political leaders, the opposition. That's what they call human rights. Actually,
Yeah.
for them, when they see presidents involved, that's what they call
Human rights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but respect them.
let me ask Mose.
Mose,
Let me ask just one question. Do you think the government of Uganda would report to Amnesty International that 60 people have been killed unlawfully?
Yes.
Do you think the government can do that unlawfully?
One time,
That's the role of the opposition.
can I tell you
Yeah.
one thing? One time, 6 soldiers from UPDF were executed in Morocco because they killed the priest. The Amnesty International, the International Human Rights came to accuse Uganda for killing those soldiers without bringing them to the regular courts. I'm giving what happened.
Just a quick one.
The
You're running out
government
of
of
time. Yeah.
Uganda had to send the Attorney General to go to that court to explain why
Exactly.
these exceptions were made. Because the army men had violated the rights of the civilians. And it's the army code of conduct. So the the government knows that rights are being abused. Rights are being abused by the American soldiers in Afghanistan. How about Ugandan soldiers?
Uganda. Okay,
Yes.
that's fine. Yeah, just as we wind up, sorry members, we're running out of time. Moses, the 1995 Constitution makes provisions for these rights, the Ugandan Constitution. And under this article, every person shall have freedom to assemble and to demonstrate together with others peacefully and unarmed. I know you are not judgmental, you don't want fast judgment here. But when we see that people's freedom to assemble and to demonstrate together with others peacefully is being abused, are we saying that the Ugandan government is not respecting the Constitution itself? Because it's well stated in the Constitution.
If that's what's happening in that time, you know, I don't want to reduce myself to discussing that so much. But the truth is, I want to base on the international report that I captured. Because one
genuine.
How genuine? One
Yeah.
reason of having
How
opposition.
genuine?
If you are talking about democracy here,
Yeah.
democracy is how opposition. Opposition becomes like the balancing power. It's like the watchdog in a way to report what the government cannot report. So if that report comes out, it's now the government come out and react that what Amnesty is saying is wrong. Can you bring your facts? Government of Uganda has never come out to defend its position as far as human rights abuse is concerned, as it reflective of the international human rights record, which has been put up. So there, we need the IGG to come out and say, no, Amnesty International, this is wrong, this is not what we are doing. We need that to come out. That has never been done.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's been done, it has never come out.
Yeah,
That's one too. Now, there is a lot there. You're talking about tapping internet and telephone.
Yeah. Communication. Yeah. Communication
They-
Act. Yeah.
That Communication Act came out because of the need to fight terrorism. It has come out.
Yeah.
That's right, every country has got that.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
a big brother syndrome, it's there. But there is a snag here.
What is it?
Can the opposition, can the government use that to listen in to the opposition? And now know who is talking what? And then that's where the human rights abuse will come in. It's so open, it's so left to the government to decide, so it can come up and start using it as evidence or a way of oppressing the opposition.
Exactly.
But how would we gauge against that?
Good question. Now, members, we're running out of time, and as usual, we're going to sum up a little bit with our questions here, just to let us know. And I'm bringing in my friend Jeff. Jeff, members have suggested on the platform here that what is lacking mainly is sensitization. They're saying Ugandans mainly don't know what their rights is or what their rights are. Now, where should sensitization begin? Do you think human rights as a topic or as a subject should be taught in schools from primary, university? What's your view about that?
We had lots of political sensitizations that, but we had things like Chankwanzi that was done.
Yeah.
Soon after the war in 1996.
Yeah.
A lot of these things, it actually died out.
Yeah.
But we need to have something like that. Not in the way that people have to be taken away from their homes, but we need to have.
So can it be done in schools?
Yeah, it can be done in schools.
It should be part of the curriculum. But my question is, what level are primary kids good enough to start getting it from there?
Yeah.
That's a question for Jeff.
Yeah.
So you're right with that.
I'm okay with that because legally, I mean, a child 12 years of age should be able to know, understand, and speak.
Okay. Yeah, back to Robert. Robert, as we are winding up, sorry, we are running out of time. How should, I'll drive you back to your main point, which is sensitization. How best should the Ugandan government educate the masses about human rights?
The human rights body should have a program, on a running program, and it shouldn't be a once-off. There's the media, the radios now are everywhere. They should be having programs. What is needed here is to find the organization, and this can be. I mean, I say the media. We have the LCs. They can have. Their programs taken through the LCs to the villages and the schools.
Exactly.
That message will go very well, and we shall not see issues of now police, how do we handle this, when everyone knows his right, and how do I know this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that summary. And back to Tony. Tony, my question to you as we summarize is you're very good at looking at the wider picture of Africa and the world at large. From your own understanding and academics and so on, which country is the most abuse of human rights, say, for example, in the last 5 years?
Which country? It depends which country, which rights are being abused.
Now,
what we have now is Syria.
Syria
is now the current situation. And we have Sudan, which is deporting people and throwing them when they have lived so many years and they are not being given rights. So that's it.
Yeah. Would you compare Uganda to any of those two countries anywhere nearby?
No. It's not compared because they have different indicators. If Syria may look at one indicator which is very high, where other indicators are low, even in Sudan. It's a matter of looking at all the indicators and value them, and I don't have an indicator, any mechanism to do what? Come up with a measurement.
Yeah.
However, we are talking of responsibility. I want to give you one example.
Yeah.
Recently, there was a riot in South Korea, and the police rioted. No, there was an incident where somebody called the police, and police went to a wrong address.
Yeah.
And in the process, somebody died because they were calling the police to come and rescue somebody with domestic violence. They called the police, they gave them the address, they went to the wrong address. Okay?
Yep.
Then somebody was beaten and killed. You know what happened? The police commander resigned. He took responsibility. He said, because of this, I don't have the moral prerogative to leave the police in car. Failed to locate the address of somebody who called. Can we have such an incident of people taking responsibility? Not only the police, even the politicians. We have people taking responsibility.
Yeah, sorry members, we're winding up. Yeah, no, Tony, thanks for that summary. And finally, Mose, the question is quite simple and sharp to you. Should we get police uniforms and dress it to the military, to the soldiers? Can we do away with the police and just militarize the police?
No. Of course, even the laws in Uganda can't allow that. You have a police force, which its building is ongoing.
Yep.
We are building the army, we are building the police, and the prisons. Yes. So we can't mix up things or issues. No. And I'm telling you this, within the next decade, as we move on, Uganda police will be far better than what it is today.
With more soldiers on top?
Soldiers on top can act anywhere. They can go anywhere, they can perform.
Yeah.
Because you know what, the opposition in Uganda have been taking the government to court, to constitutional court in many areas, but they have not taken Kaigura to court.
Yeah.
If they think that it's illegal, they should take the government to court that Kaigura is not qualified to be an IGP.
Exactly.
You know, they will just remove him from there. That's it, but he's performing.
Good.
According to the government, because he has interest.
Exactly.
He's performing and performing well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, members, we never have time. We never have time to discuss this. Time is not always our best ally. But thank members today, Tony, Mose, Robert, and Jeff, and I've been your host tonight, Samuel Kinto, based here in Sydney, Australia. Join us next time when we have a fresh topic on the Uganda political platform. Thanks for viewing.